everybody, and welcome to another episode of Queer Opera Conversations. This video series is dedicated to speaking with LGBTQIA artists and allies about making the world a more interesting, diverse, and most importantly, equitable place through opera. My name is Chuck Dillard, founder and artistic director of Queer Opera, and today I am thrilled to welcome my very good friend, Liz Cass, to the show. Liz, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you too. So Liz and I have known each other for quite a long time and had a great professional and personal relationship. But as far as my viewers go, you don't know much about Liz Cass. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a Texan-born, raised in Kansas, went to UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is an amazing school, Conservatory of Music. And this gal has performed all over North and South America, doing opera and oratorio. Are you still doing your yearly Messiah in Guatemala?
No longer doing that project there, but
Okay.
hopefully we have some other projects in the works.
Very cool. So my apologies if you see some critters in the background. That's Millie and Mercy wrestling on the couch. Liz has some very interesting roles to her credit, many of which have been created or commissioned by her. We'll talk about those in just a little bit. But two things that I want you guys to know, especially about Liz, is first of all, she is the executive director of the Armstrong Community Music School, which is an amazing organization in Austin, Texas, that services students from babies that are 6 weeks old to 80-year-olds. All classes and lessons are taught by professional musicians in Austin, and they are still going strong in a virtual environment. So if you're in Austin and need some musical instruction, check out the Armstrong School. It is a very special place for many people in that community. And lastly, I want to mention that Liz is the founder of LOLA, Local Opera Local Artists, which is another fantastic organization in Austin, Texas that uses local talent to present operas in a really fantastic new way. This group takes traditional stories much in the same way that queer opera does and puts a spin on it, that you might be thinking you're getting one thing and you're actually getting something else. They're vibrant, they are memorable, and they're all local, which I think is very important to support local artists. So Liz, anything that I left out that you want our viewers to know?
No, I think you covered it all so beautifully. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I always want to know how my guests got to where they are today. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into music and your upbringing, your family, your inspiration? What put you on the path to being the amazing woman that you are?
So I had the benefit of growing up in a musical family. So I never had the struggle of trying to convince anybody that I wanted to go to music school. You know, everybody was like, great, green light right away. My father was a concert pianist. My mother's a pianist. My father's mother was a singer also. She actually went to the Peabody school in like the early 1900s. I think like 1916 and 17 even. So I have a long history of music in my family. We had music around all the time, people that my parents were collaborating with. It was just part of the air that we were breathing. And so I was exposed to singing at a very early age. I have two older siblings and a younger sibling, but my two older siblings took piano lessons and they were involved in choir. And so anytime I would go to a choir concert, I instantly recognized that I had that ability within me. I mean, I couldn't sing at the time. I was like 5, but I remember it was like a knowing, which is really interesting to me because if, you know, we talk about equity in the arts, and I know that we're all about this on this program here, and through my music school too, through the opera company also, but through my music school, it's a lot about arts equity because, you know, I didn't know I could sing opera at 5 years old, but just being in an audience, you resonate with it, right? I'm sure you might have a similar experience with piano, or all of us who feel like we're connected to music whatever our instrument of choice really is. I bet there was that moment when you saw that person or you have that experience. And so for me, I remember this like song about a rainbow in, it's a really cheesy song. I could still sing it, but it was like at the Knollwood Junior High School choir concert. I was sitting on the bleachers. And so that was my entree into music. And there was also a holiday concert at UMKC that I attended when I was 5 years old, and it was just tons of singing and all choir stuff. And I was like, oh, "That's me! I'm a singer." I just knew I was a singer, but it was a
Wow.
long time coming that I got to, the opera stage.
Do you remember the first opera that you saw?
I do. The very first opera I saw was La Boheme.
Oh, wow.
I saw it at UMKC, and I was 16 years old. Yeah, and I was really impressed. I remember the lighting being, I don't know why I remember the lighting so much. I remember the singing being fabulous. I remember the lighting was very blue. I think it was just like kind of a sleepy thing.
Mm.
And
And
that's,
you're like, where's the mezzo?
yeah, exactly. And that same year, Cecilia Bartoli was coming through Kansas City on a tour. There's this wonderful theater called the Folly Theater in Kansas City, and it's about, I want to say it's no more than 600 seats. It used to be a burlesque hall back in the day.
Mm.
It's a glorious jewel box of a theater. And I saw Cecilia Bartoli sing, and I was in like the fifth row. And she was singing, it was the beginning of her career, so she was singing the 24 Italian songs and arias. And that I think
Interesting.
that was the first moment that I was seeing an opera singer up close and personal. I met her after the show, and she was singing the songs I was singing, so there was just
Yeah.
such an immediate connection there.
Yeah. Fascinating. And now I can totally see Cecilia Bartoli. Like, I see the resemblance even, like I don't know.
Oh, with
Yeah.
me and Cecilia.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so. I think so.
thank you, thank you.
So I want to just go back to what you were talking about with your upbringing. I think we talked about this, but for those of you that don't know, Liz's dad is an amazing um, uh, concert pianist, Richard Cass, and I met him back at Furman University when I was in school, and so that was my first connection to the Cass family, and his recordings are so inspiring to me and to so many people, and to have grown up in a family like that, um, and to have that, it's never a question of, yeah, let's get in the car and go to the concert hall. That's so amazing that you had that experience. And I did not have that experience, and I imagine a lot of people watching this didn't have that experience. But we need to make sure that kids these days keep having that experience, that if their parents aren't the ones that take them, that we find some way to get these kids to the concert hall after all of these shenanigans are over, and the vaccine and this and that, whatever. I'm
Well,
not going
now
to talk
there's
about that.
almost no excuse because I mean, I know we're trying to limit screen time to an extent, but now I think that there will be some new opportunities for equity. And now I think it will
Definitely.
be a matter of making sure the technology is available for everybody.
Right, exactly. So, one of the things that I skipped over in your bio is about your involvement in creating new opera. Um, Really interesting stories. Can you talk just a little bit about what you're doing and what Lola is doing um, to create new works for the stage?
Yeah, so one of the things that I really love about having an opera company this size is that we get to take some really fun risks and we get to make the art that we really want to make.
Mm.
Yes, there are business considerations all of the time and some bottom line considerations, but that's not the driving force of why we do what we do. So we can be very creative. And honestly, I don't know that I would be doing this as much if we couldn't be, because that's really just the whole point. Rethinking, like you had mentioned, rethinking the traditional operas. There's so much there now that viewed through the lens of today's time period can really be adjusted, and we can look at these works with just brand new eyes. And interestingly, some of the ways we're exploring some older works with new eyes, some of that material was there the whole time. It
Mm,
just took
hmm.
us in the future to highlight it or to bring it out.
Right.
The human stuff has always been there. And so it's just it's a fun time to explore that in the traditional works, but also creating new works. I love finding the right collaborators and people who are in line with our vision and who are excited about creating things and creating voices on stage that have not yet been heard. For instance, our first commission, an opera called Lardo Weeping, we may talk more about that later, but it's about a woman who's like agoraphobic and sort of,
Mm,
and very intelligent, but also very tortured. And so I have not seen that story told on stage or
right.
seen that character in an opera before. And we were working with Keith Allegretti, who's a fabulous composer, and his librettist, Cecilia Raker. Or is he her composer? I'm not sure. They're a very good
Mm,
partnership. Keith and Cecilia have worked on written an opera called Good Country about an actual transgender stagecoach driver who was born female but lived his life as a man named Charlie Parker
yeah, I know the
out in the
story.
Old West. Great story, right?
Yeah.
And so we were going to do a concert version of that before all of this hit. So hopefully we'll get back to some version of that soon. But that's really exciting work to us. We love the work that they're doing. And so as an opera company, we can create our own works. We can be producers of our own stuff that feels really good. And then when we have the great fortune of finding collaborators who have already created something, and we can be a business foundation to help launch them further, and
Hmm.
really fully collaborate, that's great too. So it's turned us from a strictly producing company to a producing and presenting company, which is very exciting to me. I don't know that I would trade one for the other at all. I would definitely not give up producing our own stuff, but it kind of broadens our vision a little bit and the work that we're able to do to help support others who have projects in the works as well.
Right. That's amazing. You are, I mean, aside from your work at the Armstrong, um, you were an incredibly busy woman, keeping this afloat so successfully. So I'm amazed at your tenacity and acumen in getting this going. So if anyone is an amazing, excuse me for using that same descriptor for you, but there we go,
It's
an
okay.
amazing combination of administrator and performer and muse. Um, I would say that is Liz Cass. So
Oh,
um,
thank you.
yeah, you bet. Um, let's move on to our big project that we had together, La Femme Bohème. Um, this is a performance, a production of Puccini's La Bohème with an all-female cast. The first time this has ever been done. When it started in Austin, gosh, I don't know how many years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago. I know we had no idea that it would spread across the country, but it has. Can you talk a little bit about where this idea came from? And yeah, we'll start there.
Sure. So I've been thinking about it for many, many years. The first time I came to you about it, and you were the very first person I talked to about it, was in the summer of 2013. So it's almost 7 years ago.
Well,
So it was probably 2 years before that I'd started thinking about it and how wonderful it would be. It really started out as, first of all, I love the music. The story is so immediate, especially to all of us who are artists, and I think it really speaks to that, to young when you feel young love, the creative spirit. So the piece itself is just fabulous. So I knew all of these professional female singers who were not finding work or who were frustrated by by the path that music
Mm,
had created at that point in time. It's sort of a pathway that had a deep rut, if
right.
you will. So it was kind of, I think it's hard at that time for people to see that there are other avenues and other ways that they can use their talents. So the idea of anybody who has something to say as an artist packing it up because the world had a path that they couldn't fit into
Mhm.
was too heartbreaking to me. And I just thought there's so many different ways that we can make art, and we should do it. Why not do an all-female version of this? It fits the voices really well.
Mhm.
So yeah, why not? This could be all women. I don't see why that's a big deal. But I had never produced anything, and I had I had enough administrative experience to know what I could do and to know who I needed to find to help fill in the gaps, and
Mhm.
that's where we needed to be. And you were certainly one of those people. So it was like having this little dream and being very careful about who to let into the little circle because I knew it would be a big deal.
Mhm.
And so I remember at first being like, okay, but don't tell anybody. So you and I met. And then over some nice whiskey drinks, as I
Yes.
remember.
Yep.
And then reached out to Rebecca Herman, who's the other part of Lola. She and I are the producing partners of Lola. So reached out to her. She's a stage director and also has a lot of production experience and has built budgets and that kind of thing. And so it was the three of us right there from the beginning. And then we hand selected the singers that we wanted to work with on this project. And then we started rolling, and we started building it out and doing the fundraising, and all of that took a year. It was a year later that we presented it at a bar in downtown Austin,
Mhm.
a really cool bar with great acoustics. I think that was really important to all of us when we were talking about the musical quality, um,
Right.
so that the sound would be always, it's always an
Professional.
important component. Yeah.
Right. Let me unpack some of that, and eventually I want to touch on significantly your involvement on stage in Femme Boheme.
Mm.
Um, but one of the things that you mentioned that is a bit of a mantra for me is this idea of why not. Um, what is wrong with mixing up opera? Turning it upside down. Um, who how is this causing any chaos or problem? I mean, we're just giving more opportunity. And like you, I see people who just keep getting told no because they're not the right gender or voice type or body style, or maybe they can't quite sing high C, or that have worked so hard, that have invested so much, and there's just no avenues for them to go, or no doors that are open. And Femme Boheme, and I'm thinking of a few specific singers, um, was just a big old open door for them, that they were able to come back into the profession. And granted, this isn't like an A opera house or anything. I mean, it's a small stage, but they were able to get back in it and do their art. And it was just another opportunity. And so I'm so thrilled that I was able to be a part of that. I'm especially thrilled that you let my Y chromosome be a part of that.
Well, we don't discriminate. Hello. And it was really wonderful bringing this idea to you. You and Rebecca are absolutely just the right people. That in assembling a team to make things happen, and you're talking about that great why not, bringing the right people to the table.
Right.
When you have the
Absolutely.
right you have the right team, the right combination, anything is possible. And we as artists, I think we're sensitive to that. We know when we're bringing in the right person. We know sometimes when we're like, I'm going to take a chance on that one, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But this was the right team, and Rebecca even taking it. I had this idea in broad brushstrokes, and you giving it the musical detail, nuance, sophistication, and Rebecca giving it the idea of let's make this about people who were born female living across a broad gender spectrum.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That was what she brought to the table, and that changed everything. And at that time in 2014, this, which was not that long ago,
Right.
that was a radical idea.
Yeah.
So much so that some people attending the opera said, "Oh, I just love how you had all these people in pants roles. So you were playing a pants role." I'm like, "I was not playing a pants role."
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So you were Marcello,
Yes.
and can I say that the opening duet to Act Four, it still feels weird to me to hear a tenor and a baritone. After hearing you sing Marcello, and that moment in at the end of Act Two where you come in with the Quando and Vo theme, um, I love hearing you sing that as a mezzo. What was it like for you as a straight person, um, portraying such a traditionally macho male, using that as an adjective, um, character on stage?
Well, I've sung pants roles. I've sung a bunch of pants roles. So it was similar to that. And it didn't feel there was nothing about it that felt self-conscious. So I guess I would say then it felt really liberating to
Mm,
explore that. We all have all these different things inside of us.
right,
So it was really a gift to be able to explore that side of myself. We were just talking about like becoming other people on stage, but you're always bringing part of yourself or it won't
mm,
work. So it was fun to explore those aspects of myself. It felt totally natural.
mm,
Um, I just think the character work was done in such a way, like Rebecca really talked to us about who we were and helped guide us to like what we were all about and helped us uncover what was driving us in this way and that way. I don't want to say motivation. She didn't give us our motivation, but she definitely is such a great stage director. She helps you
right.
uncover these things yourself. Um, so
Yeah,
it felt good and it felt natural. And now today I would actually like in 2020 if we were doing this tomorrow, I think I might feel self-conscious as a straight woman portraying that character. I mean, I might want to see a real trans singer in that
right,
role.
right. Um, yeah, that's fascinating. So listening to what you're talking about, it just made me think a couple things about who we gather together for these projects. That if you had a lot of hangups or biases or um, issues with, queer being icky or, oh my God, I've got to kiss someone of the same gender, this obviously wouldn't work. Like you have to be an open individual, which is one of the wonderful things that I think you and Rebecca were able to create in Femme Boheme, is that you gathered together all of these people who were just open and willing to say yes and didn't have to um, didn't have to break down any barriers. So um, I think for a lot of us in small opera companies, it's sometimes it's about the repertoire, but it's also just about who we put in the same room together. That if it's the right combination of people, you can really create magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So I'm going way off script here, and I love what we're talking about. Um, but here's a question in my wrap up section that I just want to touch on because I think you would have an amazing answer. So many singers that are graduating these days are thinking, I've got to go to New York, I've got to go to Europe. Um, and they don't even consider the possibility of making music close to home. Austin has an opera company. Um, and Houston is a couple hours down the road, but there aren't very many obvious opportunities for music making for young opera singers. What would you say to a singer that thinks their only option is to move to New York or Berlin or whatever to get their career started when they're 25 years old?
Mhm. Well, I think the main thing I would say to everybody who's right at that jumping off point into professional career is to take a breath and ask yourself why you sing. Take a
Mm-hmm.
moment to take
Mm-hmm.
the financial pressure off. I know that a lot of people graduating have pressures that they put on themselves and maybe some familial things of like, I've got to earn a paycheck and I have to get insurance. And then and I get those things and then everything will be fine. And I know it's hard to work without those things as stable forces in our lives because it can create some anxiety and some feelings that things aren't so stable. But I would still try to put that on the back burner for at least a second and really ask yourself why you sing. Because if why you sing is to make money, okay, that's fine. There's a place for that. If why you sing is to make art, if you're chasing that stability, you're gonna miss a lot.
Yeah.
And you're not probably not going to be happy, and you'll be like a slave to this industry, and you'll be like, why am I not fulfilled? And I'm not saying that the two are mutually exclusive at all. I'm just saying when that desire or that pressure, I would say if it's pressure to get the
Mm.
paycheck, then just try to take a step back and make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if the point is to make art, there's all kinds of ways to make art, and there's all kinds of ways to be engaged with opera and making art. And if that's your real driving force, kind of let that help guide you a little bit more at least equal footing with the practical things that we all need to survive in this world, right?
Right.
But then you do things like if you're excited about that, then you can create things like Lola or another small company or some kind of virtual experience. I mean, people with technological know-how are gonna have this is gonna be a different world for them, and there's gonna be a lot of opportunities there, and you can invent a way to make your own paycheck. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that, um, well, let me back up. I have seen you on the big opera stage. I still remember your Hexa in in Hansel and Gretel at Austin Opera. That was a hoot, by the way.
That was
Um,
10 years ago.
it's unbelievable. Um, and so you have the goods to do in in my opinion and in many other people's opinion, you have the vocal goods to do kind of whatever you want. But I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've been really mindful and purposeful in making some decisions about your quality of life and your importance of family and stability and creating art and educating others about it. That has kept you in Austin, and maybe has caused you to bypass certain offers to do things far and abroad. I don't know specifically, but I think that we need more people like you that are able to recognize the importance of making really interesting professional art right where you are, and you don't have to chase it. Like if you can do it at home, then just do it at home. And so I really admire you for that.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
No, thank you. Well, at this point we don't have a choice, but
We're literally making art at home.
we're
Like,
literally making art at home. Right. Great. Well, so I want to go ahead and wrap up here with just a couple thank yous. Liz, thank you so much for taking your time on this Friday afternoon.
It's
It's
been
been
a
a real,
pleasure. I feel like we could keep talking for like 2 hours.
we could totally keep talking for 2 hours, but people won't watch that. So we have to cut it short. I want to thank two special people at PSU, Portland State University, Dean Leroy Bynum and Bonnie Mitch. These are two individuals that are champions of queer opera and really help support what we do. And finally, the Portland State Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that helps me as well. So until next time, thank you again to Liz, and we are signing off.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.